Greetings, duelists. Welcome to another video. So today I'm going to showcase you a deck profile. This deck is pretty much going to be my current deck of the format until Cyberstorm Axis uh, gets his TCG release. Um, as you guys already know, at least regulars who have seen the channel beforehand, they already know that for the last month, I was testing Luna Light Telements. I got into the conclusion of that deck. I pretty much think that there's no other iteration or change I can do to the main deck, and overall I just felt like the ceiling of the deck and the power of the deck, as good as it is, uh, does not fully warrant all the problems we have on the current TCG format. That being said, the deck I'm playing right now and I choose to play, um, I took it yesterday to locals. It was a 40 player event. Well, roughly 40 players. It was around 37. It was 6 rounds of Swiss, and I ended up undefeated. Um, Not only did I finish undefeated, but I did not drop. I did not lose a single game until the very last round. So I pretty much 2-0'd every opponent until the very last match, which I ended up 1-1. Um, like, well, 2-1 in this case. With um, Without further ado, I'm going to show the deck profile. I'm going to explain the ratios, and then I'm going to give some closing thoughts on the power of this deck and how. And not only that, well, I'll talk about my matchups, and I'll talk about like how I feel about this deck moving forward. Without further ado, let's begin. Um, Visa Starfrost, Scareclaw Astra, Scareclaw Balone, Scareclaw Acro, Scareclaw Rykard, Scareclaw Kashtira, Riceheart Kashtira, Unicorn Kashtira, Fenrir Kashtira, Water Enchantress, Griffin Rider. That's it for the monsters. Spell cards. Raysoth, Theosis, Birth. That's it for the Kashtira cards. Rayphobia, Arrival. That's it for the Scareclaw portion. Right, Fateful, Dracoback. That's it for the adventure. For miscellaneous spell cards, Triple Talent, Double Thrust, Terraforming, Rhoda, Harpy's Feather Duster. And the last card in the deck, which is just one trap card, is Scareclaw Twinsaw. That's it for spell cards and trap cards. The total main deck count is 46. So extra deck, a Rice Heart, Triple Light Heart, Double Tri Heart, Link Spider, Dark, Asa, Unicorn, Access Code, Underworld Goddess, Chen, Wolfrit, Baron the Floor. Side deck, Triple Shifter, Triple Droll, Triple Cosmic, Triple Imperm, and Triple Evenly Matched. That's the total deck count. Um, I guess it's time for explanations. There's a lot of them. Um, so the deck I chose for the format, if you've seen this channel since day one, you already know that I already had Scareclaw Kashtira Adventure as one of my deck choices for the current TCG format. It was this and Luna Light Tournament. Um, so before I speak about the ratios, I'll explain why I picked up this deck. Um, so this all started um, when Darkwind Blast first released. Um, I was testing Luna Light tournaments back then, and I faced a player that had the Scareclaw deck, and I got demolished. After I got demolished, I I pretty much convinced myself that Scareclaw was a really good deck, one way or another. Um, my matchups yesterday at locals were 3 sprites, 2 Kashtiras, 1 Rikas and Avalon. 2 out of the 3 sprite players were playing the adventure package. One was playing the first place Peru build from the YCS, and the second one played the second place build. Um, I lost the die roll against both of them. They both full comboed me. The first player did the full combo involving the Tetsu Newman, and he had the Griffin. He had totally awesome. Um, he had Smashers and Double Cross. Like obviously, Double Cross brought back the Tetsu Newman, and I broke that board. I broke the board with this deck. Um, like the number one reason, I guess I can explain what made this deck like a proper choice and why do I have a really good sprite matchup. Um, like the number one reason and the number one thing that people did not take into consideration is um, the power behind Primitive Planet. Um, a lot of sprite players, they summon all their cards in defense position, and this is really good because Rayphobia makes it so this is both a consistency card and it's also a board breaking card. Um, and people overlook that. One thing to note as well is this is searchable off Lightheart, the link one. And Lightheart's effect to add Rayphobia is not once per turn. And you can use another copy of itself as long as it's in the main monster zone to summon another copy of itself. So that's one thing that people overlooked. Another thing that people overlooked is the fact that Scareclaw Arrival is not once per turn. It's Reborn effect. That this was really really good. Like people did not take that into consideration. The other thing that people did not take into consideration was that the fact that Scareclaw Arrival can bring back Visa Starfrost. That is also very significant, and it's going to be even more relevant once Cyberstorm Access comes out, because you will probably see this played as an engine for the Mana Dome archetype, or pretty much the Synchro Turbo Scareclaw deck with Vicious Astraud, which is the fusion monster for Visa Starfrost. Another thing people did not take into consideration was the fact that you can make Lightheart with Scareclaw Kashtira. So, like pretty much, it pretty much became the fact that you can break their board, and after you break their board, you can link this away, and then you do your Scareclaw plays. Um, People did not take into consideration the negation effect behind this, like as well. Whenever your monster battles, so that was also something really important to take note of. Um, Against my two Kashtira opponents, I won't deny it. I think a card that was MVP not only during the event but against like those matchups was triple attack. Like both copies of triple attack. Um, like whenever I went first against Kashtira, if they hand trapped me, I looked at their hand, and almost always what would happen is they have the engine pieces, and they have only one monster, and I just spin their monster back into their deck, and I have the rest of my hand to work against whatever engine cards they have left. Whenever I went second, this was extra powerful because I would steal Fenrir or Unicorn, and since I'm also playing Kashtiras as an engine, it will extra benefit me because then I get to plus out of their effects. Um, Against the Sprite matchup, this pretty much baited a lot of interruptions. There were games where I drew multiple of these. They were forced to hard negate either with Toad or Griffin Rider, and since this is once per act, like the activation, it was once per turn, not the use. If they negated the activation, you can activate a second one, and that pretty much blew them out. Um, like other things to consider is like, uh, yeah, like this deck is really strong in breaking boards. Like I'm playing a lot of non-engine cards that facilitate that. Um, I was pretty much ready for the labyrinth matchup as well as the back row matchups as well. Um, my Rika Sonovalon player, he opened Rivalry and Polynosis, and I baited both of them, and then I baited the Polynosis, and then I just feather dusted. Um, that was really strong. Um, but yeah, like those are like things that were relevant involving like my matchups. When it came to the deck and the engine in itself, um, I'm actually really perplexed and surprised that people have not picked up on Scareclaw, like in a major event showing. Like I feel like the deck is way better than people give it credit for. Um, like the fact that you have one card, like you have one card that gets you to your win condition, and your win condition is just very strong against a lot of decks. And like this card provides follow up, it provides interruption, and it provides OTKs all by itself. Like it's really strong. Um, like another really cool thing about this deck is that I like there's almost nothing I cannot play against. Like my last Sprite opponent, again, shout outs to Glenn. Um, he summoned IP Avramax, and I run this in my extra deck. So like, it's very easy to get 4 monsters on the board. Um, and it's even easier because I'm playing the Charmers, like the light and dark, like the dark and the earth one. So it's like really easy to just break boards. If you resolve all of them. Um, Against other miscellaneous matchups like Dark World, like I'm playing Shifter in my side deck, I'm playing Droll in my side deck. Um, like if I know I'm facing that matchup and I go first, I can summon a Rise Heart. I guess I'm going to talk about Kashtira for a second. Um, I'm still a strong, firm believer that Kashtira is not really powerful as a deck, but it's really powerful as an engine. I don't think people have caught on yet on how splashable Kashtira can be in other deck archetypes. And Scareclaw is pretty much like a really good synergistic hybrid for Kashtira. Like, because a lot of people think that a Rise Heart pass is just like enough to like win every game. But here's the thing: my end board is usually a Rise Heart, Tri Heart, Baron the floor with this in graveyard, with this in set, and one of the Scareclaw names on board. Like, this is a really tough board to break because you already have your hard negation for evenly matched. I mean, they'll have to bait this. If they have evenly plus a bait, then I guess you lose a lot. In that instance, you either keep a Rise Heart or you keep Tri Heart. If you have multiple names in the grave, like Tri Heart, they'll have to out it after they evenly you. And if they don't out this, like, it's pretty much like you're pretty much set for next turn. If they do out this, you already have guaranteed a Scareclaw name in your hand for next turn. And again, if like just one Scareclaw name gets you into another copy of a Rise Heart, just because I'm maxing out on the copies of Scareclaw Arrival. If they Lava Golem you, they pretty much have to choose. If they get rid of the Scareclaw portion, they still have to deal with these two. If they get rid of these two, they still have to get rid of the Scareclaws, and you have this as an interruption. If they get rid of 1 and 1, like, they still have to deal like with the double interruption. So it's like really hard to out. I'll talk about Scareclaw Twinsaw. This card is absurd. Like, if you saw the new Orsarctic support that came out and how powerful the new Synchro is with the synergy that it has with Serpentrion, like, if you guys want me to talk about the new Dueling Nexus cards, let me know in the comments below. I can make a video separate on that. But for those who are familiar with what I'm talking about, you know how strong the extra deck like lock is for the soft lock is involving those synchro monsters. This is pretty much the same thing. So for those who don't know, this card is basically Icarus attack or Sword Soul Blackout. Basically, you tribute 1, you pop 2. If you control Visa Starfrost, you can banish 2 instead. The powerful part of this effect is its graveyard effect. If any player, not just you, controls a link 3 or higher, you can banish this from your graveyard, and for the rest of the turn, neither player can activate link monster effects. Like, this pretty much solidified my Sprite matchup. It was a blowout every single time. Against my Rikas and Avalon opponent, this card was also a blowout. Like, this is just way too much for one card. And the fact that it's searchable is just absurd. It's super easy to get +1s out of like Reichardt's effect. Like its effect to draw 1 card in addition to add a spell or trap. Like, with having 3 monsters in defense position, it's actually really easy to get. Especially since you're playing other engines that can summon monsters in defense position, like the Kashtiras and the adventure cards. Like, another really cool thing about this deck, even though you do have access to your graveyard, you don't really lose to a Rise Heart pass. Like, my first Kashtira opponent let me go first game 2 because um, he didn't trust himself to do the zone lock combo, uh, which is respectable. You know, you need to respect your opponent's hand traps or interruptions or board breakers when it comes to that. But he also realized that a Rice Heart pass was not enough to just handle whatever, like all the gas my deck has. So they let me go first, and what ended up happening was I ended on this board. Without the Arise Heart, I ended on this board with the Twin Saw, and halfway through the combo, he Ashed Blossomed me. I looked at his hand with triple talents, and it was already a wrap. So yeah, like I feel like this deck is very very underestimated. I don't think a lot of people are cashing on this deck. I feel um like this deck has the potential to win an event. Um like but it only time will tell if people will cash on. Until then, I'll just keep playing this deck. Um like not only is it really good at breaking boards, it's really good at making boards. The fact that you have a one card combo, it's like really powerful. The deck is kind of weak to nib, this which is very important to note, which is an important reason why the adventure cards are here. Um, but you know, Kashtira is weak to nib, Branded is weak to nib, and those are two top contenders. So I don't think I need to say a lot about that. Another really cool thing about this deck is you don't lose to Dimensional Barrier. Um, One of my opponents flipped Dimensional Barrier on me, and I pretty much said, "What are you calling?" He was like, "I don't know," and I pretty much said, "I mean, you know I run Baron, so you can just call Synchros." And like that really doesn't bother me that much because like the only synchro plays are with Visa Starfrost, and all the lines that involve Visa Starfrost is also the tryhard line. So like your deck's win condition does not lose to Dimensional Barrier. It does not lose to Baguska either, which is kind of relevant. Um, I already spoken about Rayphobia. Um, I guess I'll talk about the Scareclaw ratios because people who are familiar with Scareclaw will probably see my deck and will see that it's very unorthodox. For example, a lot of players do not play 3 balloon; they only play 2. I maxed out on all the Scareclaw names because I always want to see a Scareclaw in hand. And if you see multiple Scareclaws in hand, that's good for you because this deck is pretty much like Burning Abyss or Crusadia, which is like a deck that can play more optimally the more names you have involving your archetype names. Um, so if you are not interrupted or if you're interrupted halfway through, your other names just serve as extenders, and that's really really good. That's the deck is pretty much like Sprite at that point. um I already spoke about Kashtira as an engine. I think like as its own deck, it's very very flawed for many reasons. You just lose to too many cards, and like you have one already big weakness, which is Nibiru. You like the grind game is not really good with Kashtiras unless you like cycle through your Kashtira birth multiple times. Like it's just not that powerful in it on its own. But I chose a minimalistic approach because I felt that just these cards alone warranted like how powerful the deck can be. The synergy I have with the Scareclaw Kashtira and how that works, like with the Kashtira with the Scareclaw cards, it was enough to warrant it. Fenrir is a really strong board breaking card. Like going second, if you multiple Fenrir's, like pretty much you're pushing against your opponent's interruptions. Like these cards just do a lot by their on its own. There are really cool synergies with the deck. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like closing thoughts, I already gave them. Like I already pretty much spoke about that. I guess one other thing is, and another thing is, I'm only playing Twin Saw and I'm only playing Arrival as my Scareclaw spell and traps. Defang is a really powerful one, but since I'm not playing a pure Scareclaw deck, I'm playing a hybrid. I figured I just don't want to break on cards that do not function with the synergy between all the engines, which is like the same consensus I have under just one Theosis and one Birth. Birth and Theosis are both good because it works with Scareclaw Kashtira. So it's like not really a brick on like if you open anything involving your Scareclaw engine. I do think I want to play a third right phobia. The only game I lost against Sprite, like my only one game that I lost, it was because I did not play a third one. I misplayed against my opponent and we both ended on a grain game. I top decked two names, but I did not have a third field spell, so I could not keep cycling. If I had the third field spell, I 100% would have won because they had no way to interrupt me, and it would have made it so I got to try hard OTK. So that's pretty much just like the only real change I probably would have made to the deck. Everything else was pretty much solid. I did not mind open multiple of these. The reason for that is if you go second and your opponent tries to hard negate this, you show them a second copy and they didn't play around it. Same with the Enchantress. Like I had games where I just had Enchantress right. I activate the Enchantress first to bait whatever interruptions they had. If they didn't let it go through, I just activated it right and they just wasted their interruption. That happened a lot. But yeah, like I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. This is pretty much my deck of the format. I really think this is a really good deck. I think a lot of people are sleeping on this deck. People who say this deck is not good, they just don't know the lines. People who are not convinced of how powerful this deck is, I'm just gonna say this: if you think Pure Kashtira is a better deck, I don't know what's happening because, like, you just don't know well enough. No, like, no offense. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the deck profile. Expect more videos soon. Keep practicing and keep dueling.